y'all, we're gonna have to excuse if the sound sounds a little crazy, if there's like an echo or something, because, okay, listen, I have a carpet in my room that I really like, and it's a pretty large, like, room rug, but it is also one of my mom's dog's favorite place to pee. I don't know why. If anyone knows why dogs do that, he literally pees in the exact same spot too, even with, like, we use, like, the protein killer, but basically, he peed on my rug. At this point, my stuffed animals were also on the floor, so he peed on my rug and my stuffed animals. So it's been a process to get everything washed. So if there's any kind of echoing, that is why. Anyway, hello everyone and welcome to whatever this video is going to become. My name is Zarina and today we're going to be going over my TBR for the month of September. Yeah, low-key, I'm hot. Hold on, let me take the sweater off. So I will say, usually I film these videos before the start of the month, which is crazy. Me filming video on time ahead of time. Yeah, and I did the same for this one. However, listen, okay? So some things have changed. I was really excited in that video because I was like, oh my gosh, I read like 22 books last month. And if you've been following me for a while, you know that I do a book low buy. So for every 3 full-length books I read, I get like to buy 1 book. And then for any 6 manga I finish, or 6 DNFs, because I usually try to get about halfway to a DNF, usually about 150 pages, I qualify it in that like size category, where if I get 6 of those, I also earn like a book credit basically. And last month I read 22 books with some manga and graphic novels sprinkled in, so I technically earned 7 book credits. And I was like, oh my gosh, with what I pulled out of the teapot, like, which is my equivalent of my TBR jar, I'm like, I'm gonna have plenty of slots to buy books. However, I forgot that weekend, Cynthia and I, hey Cynthia, we were going, so there's a romance only bookstore in Anaheim that opened, and they were having a like romance trivia night, which we found out about and we're like, hell yeah, we're going. Guys, I have an issue. I kind of did a little too well at that trivia. Like, there's no reason why I should know specific audiobook narrators' names, but like, we're not gonna talk about it, okay? So I did end up buying books there. And then I also might have, the next day was the used bookstore like flash sale that they do, where like things are basically like $1, $2, $3 for a good chunk of their books. So I did go there and I bought 11 books, so that is a total of 14 books. So therefore I bought 7 more than I had book credits for, and so I have to deal with consequences. And so unfortunately for this video, we are not going to be doing any pulls from the TBR jar, or like there's not live footage of me doing it. There are some books that were from the TBR jar that my library happened to have, but yeah. But I'm gonna still tell you everything that I'm gonna read, and this month is a bit of a game, because, okay, so I need you to know this TBR is gonna be crazy. There is like 20 something books on it, so I need you to know this is insane, and I'm doing a challenge. I need to work off every single credit that I'm in the negative. I need to get back to either 0 or a positive credit, because if I don't have a positive credit for next month, that means not only can I not buy the books that I pulled from the TBR jar this month, that means next month I cannot pull. Or I can pull. I just can't buy in case my library doesn't have them, or a friend like doesn't have them. So we're down to get to 0. So at minimum, if I'm not reading any graphic novels, which I am this month, reading full-length books, I need to read 21 books. I did it last month. I'm determined to do it again. Which I'm even more determined that I can do it, because a lot of my longest books this month are actually audiobooks, so I can fly through those. Yeah, I think I can do it. So let me just stop yapping and let's actually get into what I'm reading this month. So first off, I will start with what I'm currently reading. Right now I am about 250 pages in to Keeper of the Lost Cities Never Seen. I'm currently rereading this series because I still haven't gotten 9.5, which is Unraveled, which is, from Keith's perspective, he's my favorite character. He's been my favorite character since I started reading this series in middle school. I am now like fully, like, I've been graduated from college for more than a year and I'm still waiting for the end of the series. Am I okay with it? Maybe. But yeah, I love this series and I really want Unraveled, because I'm pretty sure the next book comes out either next year or maybe the year after that, and I would really not. Also, all my books after book 4 are hardcovers, so I really hate to have a paperback version of Unraveled because they don't have it in hardback anymore. Yeah, so that's a must. My slow book, so if you're new here, I I have what I call my slow book category. So these are books that I read right before I go to bed, either because I need more focus on like getting through them, or I want to take more time with the story. This has been mainly for the past couple of months been reserved for Hunger Games, but like every other Hunger Games book, I've been putting something else in between. So last month I started Song of Silver Flame Like Night by Emily Wen Zhao, and honestly, I'm loving it so far. I read chapter 6 last night, and I'm not gonna lie, it's really similar to Gaze Upon Wicked Gods, except this one's just so much better. Like, there's so much more thought put into the world in this book. Yeah, and there's also not a colonizer ex-colonized romance in this, which I appreciate, because that was probably my biggest problem with To Gaze Upon Wicked Gods. Yeah, that was kind of, it was strange, but I'm having such a good time. Basically, in a world where there used to be tons of magic, a like colonizing force that does a different kind of magic has basically taken over and like repressed this group of people. And the girl lost her mother in like the original Conquering, and she's trying hard to like survive but she's also trying to figure out, like, she has this weird mark on her body that looks like one of the old magic characters, so she's trying to figure out what that is, and that's all I'm really in that far. Things just started happening, but I don't have a full grasp of it to explain it properly, so yeah. And usually, because I finish these videos before the start of the month, I typically already, like, I don't have any books finished for the month, but since it is currently already September 3rd, I do have some books finished for the month. The first thing I finished this month was Alas de Sangre, which is the Spanish version of Fourth Wing. I'm currently re-listening to the audiobooks of those because my library does have the English audiobooks, but there's like 5 or 6 people waiting per each book, so I definitely won't have it. And I have Onyx Storm, and it's not in the teapot, so I was like, okay, I would just want to get it out of my house if I don't like it. So I'm listening to the audiobooks in Spanish because I really don't want to also have to read the books. So yeah, I finished Alas de Sangre. I also finished We Hunt the Flames by Hazel Whoa, I just messed up her name. We Hunt the Flame. I'll put it right here. Will I? I don't know, but it'll be right here if I do. I finished Daughter of the Moon Goddess, but I listened to it as an audiobook because I didn't realize how chunky this book is. But I know Warrior of the Sun Kingdom, whatever the second one is. It's in the teapot, and I didn't want to, there was no wait on the audiobook, which was crazy because while I was listening to the audiobook, suddenly it was like, Libby was like, there are 3 people waiting, and I was like, that's crazy, okay? Okay. These don't really count towards that like 21 book total that I need to get through, but these are things that I'm constantly working on the background and that is, one is the Norton Anthology for World Literature. This is volume B. It's like 1,600 pages, but it basically it's an anthology of like foundational texts in world literature. My old goal used to be 25 pages a day. Right now, I'm just trying to make it through a page a day, to be fully honest, but a page a day is still progress. I'll finish it one day eventually. Yeah, so making incredibly slow progress through this, but this is still going on in the background. And then I'm also still trying to teach myself Japanese, so that's also happening, but those don't count towards my total because I do not expect to finish those this month. So that would actually be crazy if I did finish those this month, but yeah. Also, if you're noticing that I'm talking really fast, I'm trying to get through this information as quickly as possible because there are so many books this month, and I don't want to have to edit like a 2-hour-long video, and my TBR videos are usually pretty long already when I have like a normal amount of books. So we're gonna go through this quickly. Next category we're getting to are some of the rereads that I haven't talked about yet, and that is, so you saw Never Seen for Keep Our Velocities. The other Keep Our Velocities book I'm trying to get through is Lodestar. Yeah, I worry about this one. I enjoy this book. It's just like, this is not one of my favorites in the series. I really love Never Seen, which is the one I'm on. And then I really love the one that comes after this. But this one, if you know, yeah, but I love that series. So I'm really happy. I'm finally taking the chance to reread it. And then also continuing my rereads from last month, which you don't know I started rereading because the first book wasn't even on my TBR for last month. I'm currently rereading the entire Teen Titans series, so I can read Starfire because Teen Titans, the new one, comes out in November, I believe. Yeah, so I'm rereading, so I'm trying to get through Teen Titans Beast Boy this month and Teen Titans Beast Boy Loves Raven. So just like this month, I'm not always so successful in my low buy or no buy. Sometimes I buy things And because I'm primarily working on finishing the book titles that are in the TBR jar, aka the teapot, I have a backlog of books that I'm starting to like hoard basically and not get to because I'm like, well, it's not in the teapot, so I can't read it. But especially because this month I need to make up some of those slips, I was like, you know what? Perfect time to do that. The first one is Daughter of the Deep by Rick Riordan. I've never read this. I'm kind of scared for it. Keeper of the Lost Cities, well, Trials of Apollo made Rick Riordan not an auto-buy author for me anymore. I really did not enjoy the series. I do understand why the series needed to be the way it was, but I really hated Apollo as a character, and I actually feel like while I was reading it, it was more in my head, like a critique of the writing, not really like of anything else. Like there was some, yeah, I don't really remember it anymore. It's been like 5 years since I read the Trials of Apollo, and I don't really want to read them again. But I was like, okay, it's finally time to pick up Daughter of the Deep, mainly because I also have an audiobook from my library. So the good part about this is that if I don't like it, I can give it to the high school I usually give things to, and the teacher I usually give stuff to, his class, they love like the Rick Riordan stuff. But the next one, the cover is in my room somewhere. This is The Lost Souls of Benzaiten by Kelly Murashige. I bought this in Hawaii when I went with my family for vacation. I was at an independent bookstore on Oahu, and this is in their local authors section, and it's basically about a girl who went through something traumatic. I don't really remember what it was, and she basically has stopped speaking because of it, and like she's not physically unable to speak, but mentally there's a blockage there. And she's been going to therapists trying to figure it out, and she knows that she's making life more difficult for all those around her, but like she can't fathom speaking because it just, I don't really know how to explain it, but like, yeah, and then something happens. I know there's like a vacuum cleaner. I keep seeing things like that about it, and then there's like gods and magic, and yeah, and it's hopefully, I think it's a story of her healing. Again, I read this description like in June. Haven't really picked it up since then, but I was like, you know what, it's finally time. This is relatively short. Add it to the pile. And then another book that I'm very scared to get to this month, but was in the forgotten books pile, is Onyx Storm. This is the third book in the, I don't know what it's actually called, but the Fourth Wing series. I come from the interesting opinion where I thought the first book was good, but I really enjoyed the second book. I read it, well, first of all, I read both Fourth Wing and Iron Flame in one day. So I have an interesting relationship with the series because I did not read it, but I was in a book club. Like we were like not super duper official, but like we were a group of people who agreed on a book to read each month and then met up once a month to talk about them. And one month our book was Iron Flame. So I hadn't read Fourth Wing yet, so I read Fourth Wing the day before, and then the day of the book club meeting, I started Iron Flame in the morning, and I basically finished it by that night. That was an insane experience, but I remembered liking Iron Flame, which it's not an opinion people share with me, apparently. Like, people really hated it, but I thought it was the world building and like the politics that were going on were really interesting. Again, this is also like, is it 3 years ago now that this book came out? I don't remember. 2 years? I don't remember. So, yeah, that's why I'm currently rereading the series, even though it's in Spanish. I did understand enough of it in Spanish to like feel comfortable that I'm remembering things correctly. I'm scared of the Iron Flame audiobook, or technically it's Alas de Hierro, which I think that's the right name. I think also somewhere in a vlog I said Alas meant waves, and I fully thought that with my whole chest, but then I remembered like a week ago that I'm like, ah no, alas mean wings, and olas mean waves. So whoopsies, mistake there. But Iron Flame. Me trying not to make this video too long by yapping for too long. Whoa, that was loud. Also me yaps for too long. Okay. Okay, so the next thing that I'm going to talk about are the books, I did 9 pulls this month from the teapot because, again, before I knew that I'm gonna have to like read like crazy because I'm gonna use all my book credits on things that I wasn't supposed to. So I will show you the ones I have, and I will tell you the ones that are on hold at the library. And then the ones I don't currently have in my possession are the ones I cannot buy this month because I decided to use all my book credits on things I wasn't supposed to buy. Cool, okay, let us begin. First is Gideon the Ninth by the sticker is over the author's name, but I feel like Gideon the Ninth is like a pretty known of book right now. I did not realize it was sci-fi. I don't really know anything about this book. I'm just very scared for it because I've heard that this series is wacky. And so I'm a big fan of wacky. I just am a little worried about how much of this book I'm going to be able to get through, mainly because it's also due September 9th back at the library. I could probably renew it. I didn't see anyone like on hold for it. It's just that in a month where I need to get through a lot of stuff, I am nervous, but I'm not giving up. This was the first pull of the month, so like I try to go in order of what I pulled out of the teapot unless like I really can't. So after Never Seen, this is my next book. The next thing I pulled was Kaikei by Vishnavi Patel, I believe is how you pronounce the name. That's on hold from the library. It says that it'll be available in about 2 weeks, so hopefully that is true. Yeah, I also don't know what that book is about. I just remember adding it to my list at some point. So very helpful, very, very useful description. The next book is called Down the Hawk by Maggie's last name I cannot pronounce. One day I will learn how to pronounce her last name. This is the same author as the Scorpio Races and the Raven Cycle series. And if you've been around here, you guys know how much I love those series. So I'm very excited because I believe the main character is Ronan from the Raven Cycle series, and he's one of my favorite characters. Well, that's actually a lie. I love the whole main group. Like, I feel like it's a series where it's very hard not to love every single one of the characters. So I'm very excited to see, I think it's a continuation of his story. So I'm very excited about that. However, can't buy it because, yep, The next thing is that I pulled was Things We Never Got Over by Lucy Score. This series is funny because I was at a used bookstore about 1.5 years ago, or maybe 2 years ago now, in Arizona. And you know what? No, I think it was last January. So less than a year. Wow. And I saw the whole series at a used bookstore for like $2 a book. And I was like, I'm only gonna get one. But my like phone wouldn't load. I'm like, you know what? I have a 1 in 3 shot of getting the first book. So I'm just gonna grab this one. And they weren't like in order on the shelf. So I was like, you know what? I'll just grab this one and like hope for the best. We get out of the store, my phone loads. I bought the 3rd book and I was like, well, or the 2nd book. And I was like, well, that sucks. So that day we ended up going to another used bookstore and I was like, I saw the whole series again and I was like, well, it's clearly not this one, but I had already forgotten what the first book was. So I was like, you know what? Let me just grab another one. And I was like, I have a 1 in 2 shot of getting the correct book, and I got the wrong book again. So I still don't have the first book, which is really unfortunate because I have book 2 and book 3. And I don't even know if I like the series. I don't know why I'm like this, okay? I don't fully understand. I was hoping that they had a used copy at the bookstore for their flash sale, but they did not. So that was unfortunate. Yeah, but I still can't buy it because we know the reason. Okay, so the next one that I pulled is Thirst by Varsha Bajaj. I totally mispronounced that name. This one is a middle grade junior high level book, and it's basically about the limited access to water and trying to deal with the fact that like some people have swimming pools and that she doesn't have access to water, I believe. Yeah, this feels like it'll be a pretty easy read. I'm really excited to get to it. This has been on my list for a while, so that's exciting. The next one I have is a fragile, whoa, that accent was crazy. A Fragile Enchantment by Alison Zaft. I keep wanting to call it a Fragile Entanglement. Is that a book? Is that a movie? Is that a show? Like, why is that where my thoughts go? Is that a webtoon comic? It might be a webtoon comic. But, cannot say I remember what this is about either. Luckily my library had it, so I don't have to worry about that. The next thing I pulled was Noragami Volume 5. This I'm genuinely upset about that I don't have a credit for. Actually, I'm genuinely upset that I don't have credits to buy these. Why do I do this to myself? Anyway, literally. Okay. Yeah. If you've never heard of the Noragami series, it's a manga series, and it has to do with this god named Yato. He's basically a loser. He has nothing going for him, like absolutely nothing. And he's a really lame god. Most people have forgotten about him. So he's trying to build his following, and he gets people to give him like random tasks and pay him like 5 yen. And yeah, but in this world there is like the demon realm, which I believe is like in this, I think they do use the word yokai, which is like the Japanese spirit realm. Why am I forgetting everything right now? I have no idea. And the land of the living, and basically the gods have to defend the humans from the yokai. And because the yokai work by like attaching to people who are having strong negative emotions and like causing them to break down more or like to cause havoc in the human world. But to do this, the gods need something called shinki, which are basically like souls that turn into weapons, kind of like Soul Eater, but like less Meister and weapon. It's more like the weapon is like an uncorrupted human soul who has passed away from not suicide, and the god has to like save them and turn them into a weapon and give them a name before that happens. And then there is this girl, I'm forgetting her name, it's been like a hot second. I'm really bad with names. So she one day saves Yato from getting hit by a bus, but she gets hit by the bus and it basically knocks her soul out of her body. And starting from that day, like she'll randomly, her human body will like fall asleep, but that's because her soul like floats out of her body and like can walk around the world, not being seen by humans, but only being seen by yokai. And she's in kind of a bad position because she can be killed while she's like not in her body. Meanwhile, her body is literally just like asleep on a sidewalk or asleep in school. So yeah, so she's like, well, Yato, this is your fault, so you have to help me, and all the shenanigans that come with that. I watched the season 1 of the show and I loved it, and I really wish there was more show, but so that's why I decided to read it, because it's been it's been literal years and there's been no new season. So I was like, you know what, it's time. And literally the 4 volumes I've read so far are bangers. The emotional arcs through all of them, and like at the speed at which stuff is delivered is so good. Pacing, that's what I'm trying to say. Which is, if you read a lot of manga, you know that's like not always the case. Sometimes when you're like going up and down through arcs, like you'll get volumes that are either filler or just like the setup, and like nothing really interesting happens. But so far, all 4 bangers. So I'm very excited for the 5th one, because crazy stuff happened in 3 and 4, and like yeah. The next book is, and the last one I currently have from the library, is Poison Study by Maria V. Snyder. This is a strange copy of this book. I've never ever seen this copy, like this cover, before. I'm guessing it's older. I literally don't remember what the series is about either. So I'll read the back. Choose a quick death or slow poison. About to be executed for murder, Yelena is offered an extraordinary reprieve. As a food taster, she'll eat the best meals, have rooms in the palace, and risk assassination by anyone trying to kill the commander of Ixia. As Yelena tries to escape her new dilemma, disaster keeps mounting. Rebel plots to seize Ixia, and Yelena develops magical powers she can't control. Her life is threatened again and again, and choices must be made. But this time, the outcomes aren't so clear. Wow. Also, another reason I can tell this is old, because tell me why there's actual description on the back of the book. Wow. Yeah, so I'm excited for that. This has also been on my list for a while. I believe it is a series, so the exciting part about starting new series is sometimes I add a series because I think the premise is cool, but I've never read anything by that author. So it's always very exciting when I read something and I don't like it, and I can just kind of strike the entire series from the T-Bot and from my TBR list. So yeah, so that was everything that I'm supposed to read. Now I'm going to show you some of the books that I'm trying to use to fill up that gap, to get me at least to 0 by the end of the month. Let me go get them. Okay, so luckily a lot of these are also series that I'm starting. So, and I have double checked, all of these should be on my list on Goodreads. So the good news is, even though I'm not getting them from the Teapot, they should bring down my want to read in Goodreads. So that's exciting. First up, I'm going to be starting a Tale of Magic series by Chris Colfer. I don't know if this is the best option because I still haven't finished Land of Stories. I have not read the last book. I've read everything up to that, but I was like, you know what? They had these and they were $1 each. So I will be starting both A Tale of Magic and A Tale of Witchcraft. I honestly don't know if this takes place in the same world. If it does, I will probably, I don't think it does. I'll have to double check that. But if it doesn't, I'm going to read them anyway, which is going out of the order for me, which is crazy because I don't like reading things out of publication order. Another thing that I got from the used bookstore was One Last Stop by Casey McQuinton. This is the author of Red, White, and Royal Blue, which I I'm not, you know what, I could do a reread of Red, White, and Royal Blue. I actually finally got a copy of Red, White, and Royal Blue, which is so exciting because I love that book. I've read it probably like 4 or 5 times. Everyone say thank you to Jillian for letting me borrow her copy the first couple times I read it. I'm so happy I read that book. But now I have one last stop. I believe this is about a time traveling subway car, basically. Like, yeah, I don't know, there's time travel, which does slightly unnerve me because I'm not really a fan of time travel, but yeah, I do kind of want to go into it knowing as little as possible. I have not heard the best things about this book. I have heard that it's kind of like, is this the book where people are like, it's kind of like trying to be the Last Night at the Telegraph Club, but it's not? Yeah, I really don't remember. I don't, so I'm gonna stop talking and I'm gonna move on. My sister called me. I had to pick up my phone. I'm back. So we have 4 more books to get through. I promise I'm almost there. The next thing I want to read this month is Book Boyfriends by Melissa Whitney. She's a local author for me, and I've met her twice now, like 2 weeks ago and a week. She signed the copy, yeah! But she is a romance author who tries to include, she herself is a disabled woman, and she tries to include disabled characters in her books. I believe in this one, the story is a writer who can write everyone's happy ending but her own. 3 of her like protagonists from her novel come to life and try to be like, I'm your true love, but meanwhile there's this guy in the background that might be her true love interest. Yeah, anyway, I'm very excited. Once I'm done with this, it's going to Cynthia. We already know. And when she was explaining this book to us the first time we met her, she said Cynthia's like every single one of Cynthia's favorite words. It was a very funny conversation. Next up is The Spanish Love Deception by Elena Armas. I know for a fact, actually, this is not on my Goodreads want to read. I just want to know why it was such a big deal for a while, and it was like, I think it was $2. So I was like, yeah, my library does not have this, and I was like, you know what, it's fine, I will read this. And then lastly for the month is I will be starting American Royals by Catherine McGee. And I have American Royals and Majesty, which is book 2. American Royals is actually on loan to me from a family friend. And when I'm done with this, I will give it back to her. She told me I can take up to a year. It's just like, I don't know. I feel bad having someone else's book. And then this one I actually got at the used books sale. So yeah, it was $1. So I look forward to, she doesn't have book 2 from what I know. So I'm gonna give this to her. I did realize, I did forget to mention, so like I said, I was reading Iron Flame in Spanish as an audiobook, and then I am reading the first Harry Potter book again, but in Korean on audiobook. The reason I'm doing it, the reason that I'm reading the Harry Potter series, I hate the Harry Potter series even before the stuff about J.K. Rowling came out, but it literally is the only series that my library has audiobook in Korean. So first of all, I want to even see if that's like a good way for me to learn before I request different stories in Korean from my library. I know they actually in the library have physical copies of Iron Flame, Fourth Wing, and Onyx Storm in Korean, but I think those are a little too advanced for me versus Harry Potter is more aimed at a younger audience. So maybe I'll do better. If not, I think I'm gonna request Percy Jackson because I have Percy Jackson in French, Spanish, and English. So I feel like it would also be cool to be able to read Percy Jackson in Korean. But, well, yeah, so that's an audiobook I still have. I have These Violent Lights by Chloe Gong on hold from the library, and that says I'm next in line for it, so hopefully I'll get that in the next 2 to 3 weeks. So I should be able to finish that in September. Yeah, anyway, I feel like with all of those adding up, I should at least end up with 1 book credit. And if I end up with 1 book credit, I can at least get one of the books that I wanted this month. Probably, I'm not gonna lie, it's probably gonna be the Noragami volume. I know it's not the best use because I do need to read like 2 volumes of manga for every 1 regular book to like make up the credit, but I really want to know what happens with Noragami. So if you've made it this far, congratulations, you've made it to the end of the video. I really appreciate it if you subscribed. I checked this morning and we are at 53 subscribers. So that's super exciting. Yeah, it's kind of insane because I feel like my own fault because I disappeared for a couple months. Like there was so few of us and now suddenly there are more of us and that's crazy. So yeah, I'd really appreciate if you subscribed. What am I trying to say? Subscribed. I'm trying to reach 100 subscribers by the end of the year. If you don't want to subscribe, if you could leave a like, that really helps too. And then leave in the comment. What is your TBR? It can be one book. This is not normal. Anyway, okay, bye!